share with you this double page layout that I worked on recently. So I've got two photos, they're both 5x7, and I've got this background that I've already prepared that I'll start working on. So I've used the Distress Stain Squeezed Lemonade and mixed it with a bit of gesso, and then used a brayer to brayer that onto the background of a white piece of cardstock. I've also pulled out a bunch of papers, so today's layouts are going to be predominantly grey and yellow with some pops of this aqua. So I just pulled out a few papers that I thought might work well, and I don't end up using them all, but hopefully I'll tell you as I go through which papers they are. So I also created this background on a white piece of cardstock a while ago, so I'm hoping to use that as the second page, and the chevron pattern that you saw on there was just some texture paste where I added some Distress Stain, I think it was, or might have been Distress Ink, I can't remember, and just coloured that texture paste. So I really want this to be a soft and pretty layout, or pretty it's in terms of the layouts that I normally do. So I thought a piece of vellum would go really well somewhere behind the photo in the layers. So I just decided to try and tear that using a ruler. I thought I'd like the torn look, but because I used the ruler I found it gave it a straight edge, but it still looked quite messy, so I decided to just trim that up with the scissors. So it was an easy way of cutting it in the end and keeping it straight. So I'm just going to take this paper. This is a paper from Amy Tan's, one of Amy Tan's collections. I can't remember which one. Let me see if I can put my hands on it. It is Amy Tan's Rise and Shine collection. So I have that paper pad, and so I'm just going to take some of that, and it's basically a tone-on-tone watercolour look with yellow hand-drawn love hearts. So I really like this paper. I haven't used a lot of yellow before, but I'm really loving the look of yellow, and so have decided I'm going to try and mix it with grey and add a little bit of aqua. So I've just cut a rather sort of broad mat for the photo, and I've actually left a little bit more space at the top because I've decided to pull out my punches. So these are the American Crafts knockout punches, and basically you buy it as a set, and then you get a whole bunch of different punches, and so you can take the inserts out if you haven't seen these before. I'm sure there's some reviews on YouTube about them. I know Chamel, I think, did a review on the product. So I really like these. I think it set me back probably the cost of maybe 2.5 border punches, and I really like the notebook one. So it was the only one in that sort of notebook style that I could find, and really what convinced me that it was worth purchasing these. And you can also buy individual inserts as well, so you can buy the punch with one insert, and then you can buy replacement inserts as well, but I decided it was more economical to buy the pack. And so you can see I've got a notebook punch there. It's probably one of my favourite border punches, and one of the things is it doesn't always cut neatly if you haven't lined things up perfectly, but you know, I like that look because I think, you know, if you were to actually rip it out of a notebook, it's not going to look perfect every time, so I think it sort of kind of adds character to it. So I decided that I'm going to layer that under the photo and then the vellum behind it, and I'm going to use a technique that I've seen YouTubers use before, particularly I've seen Mercy Tiara or use this on some of her layouts when she's doing sort of those mixed media backgrounds a little bit. It just kind of helps anchor the page. So rather than adding a border all the way around the page, this is more of a top and a bottom border that you're adding. And I think Chamel's done this a few times as well. So I'm going to add a couple of thin strips of this aqua paper to the top and the bottom of the layout. So this aqua paper, it comes from a Chamel paper pad, and I'm just trying to figure out which collection. I have most of hers, not the most recent though, and I couldn't tell you for sure which one. I think, yeah, I don't know which one that's come from. It's the True Stories collection. So just using also these cut aparts from Pebbles from Me to You collection. So this was kind of the inspiration for these two layouts. I had these cut aparts that I wanted to use, and I really like the style. So they're like a Polaroid photo style, and I just thought that they would look really good on a layout. So I've also pulled out a bunch of stickers and embellishments from my stash. So that dream comes from a chipboard pack that I bought from the Reject Shop, and the Craft Store is the brand that they use. And then I've also added some thickers. They are, I can't remember the font of those stickers. So the reason I can't remember the font for those stickers is that I picked them up from my local cheap shop, so they are not actually branded stickers, but the font is exactly the same as the jewellery box stickers, because I have another actual stickers brand in the same style. So I really like the style of the letters. They're very uneven, but I think it gives a lot of character to a layout. And then I'm also just going through other stickers as well and looking at what else I can add to the layout. So I pulled out some Kaisercraft sticker sheets. I've got Amy Tan stuff there. I've also got these, which came from a Kmart kit that I bought. So they're little chipboard love heart stickers that I'm using on this layout as well. Now that little elephant sticker on the top right hand side, it comes from a sticker sheet from 3 Bugs in a Rug, and they're called Chit Chat stickers, and they're the Ellie stickers. So I think they had these in boy and girl versions, and I really liked the colour of the aqua in those, so I thought that that would go well on the layout. So this sticker sheet is from a Boy's Life collection, and I really wanted to use those yellow alpha stickers to create a subtitle above the cuddles. So I'm just playing around with the lettering on that. I struggled a little bit with this though because I didn't have the right letters, so you'll see me grab out a pen and try and mess around with the letters to try and change that. I tried to show you, but it didn't show up too well on camera as to how that would work. So just now adding those above the word cuddles, and that will sort of be my title, and then I'll go back and have a look at those areas of embellishment to see if I can add some layers in there. I'm a huge fan of using papers as layers for the embellishments. I think that it helps to make your pages match a little bit better, because if you're using the papers as part of layers and decorating, and then you're also using it in the embellishment clusters, you find your pages will match and look more cohesive, but also from an economical perspective. So, using 1 or 2 key stickers in an embellishment cluster, and then, the rest of it is really layers of paper and maybe a few enamel dots to finish. So, just now making those changes, as I said, and so the title of this one is Beautiful Cuddles. So that's basically what I was trying to spell out, but I didn't have a T, so I was actually trying to change an F into a T by colouring up the top of the letter F. So just getting rid of that arch, and I was messing around with a few different ways of doing that. I think I used a Sharpie to start with, which didn't work very well, and then I tried to use like an art liner in yellow, and I ended up using an alcohol marker to cover that up. So just now looking at how I can create some more layers of embellishment in those 3 areas, and I've pulled out my Tim Holtz Pinked Circle Punch. If you buy no or very minimal punches, I would suggest a notebook punch, or notebook border punch, which is the one I used at the top of that yellow Amy Tan paper, and also a pinked circle punch, and maybe another circle punch that you can layer with that. I just found that the pink circles are a really great way to add a little bit of interest to a layout or an embellishment cluster. and they can work really well on either boy pages or girl pages or gender neutral pages. So I do have a bunch of dies that are scalloped. So when I first bought my die cutting machine, the first thing I bought was some circle dies and some scalloped circle dies, and I found that they look really good on very feminine kind of pretty layouts, but the scallops really weren't working for me when it came to either layouts of my boys or, you know, very sort of gender neutral kind of layouts. And so that pinked punch has worked really well. You used to be able to get pinked dies, so they were the Nestabilities dies, but they haven't been available for quite a while, and I never managed to get my hands on a set, which I'm a little bit sad about. But this Tim Holtz punch has been the best thing ever. I use it on so many layouts, so really love it. So just now adding those circle punch circles to different areas. So I felt like that dream needed some aqua, so I've added the aqua punch circle there, and then the embellishment at the top really didn't have a lot of yellow, so I added a yellow punch circle at the top there. And then to that bottom right hand side, I've actually layered a pink circle behind a punched circle with the yellow behind the aqua. So just now adding some chipboard hearts to each of those areas as well, and looking at what else I can do. So going through a bunch of stickers to see if there's any other stickers that might work for the layout, and decide that there's not much in there. I don't really have a lot in the way of yellow stickers. I do have quite a bit of aqua, but wasn't quite in the right tone. This is sort of a very muted tone of aqua that I'm using, and I think it like a soft aqua, and I think it worked really well for this layout, but it meant that I didn't have a lot of supplies that kind of fit the colour scheme that I was looking at. But I really love the way it kind of turned out. I think it was good. So I ended up grabbing an epoxy sticker, and it's in grey, and it says Moments of Life. So I just thought that was really appropriate for this particular layout. And then go ahead and add some enamel dots. So I started by adding 3 enamel dots to each of the embellishment areas, and then decided, because there wasn't a huge amount of embellishment at each of those areas, that it probably was going to be overkill to add 3 yellow enamel dots. So originally I was just going to add 1 to each of the top ones, and then I decided to go ahead and look at, I'd have some of those heart enamel stickers from one of Amy Tan's collection, so decided that maybe the grey hearts would add a little bit more to each of those clusters, but not sort of, you know, be too much of the same thing around each of those areas. So I decided to add a grey heart to that one, the dream, and then the top already has a grey heart, so each of the embellishment clusters has a grey heart. The 2 on the right hand side are chipboard ones, so that dream didn't really have one, so I thought maybe an enamel one would work well there. And then I just balance off the rest with the yellow enamel dots. So just looking at adding those and what size to add there. So just add 1 more there and add another one at the top there. It actually has that enamel sticker as well, so it just balances it off really well, I think. And that's pretty much that layer done. And I do go back and add some mist and a doily to that, so when I show you the still shots at the end, you'll see that. So off camera, I decided to do the same sort of thing where I've punched the notebook on that Amy Tan yellow love heart paper. I've added some aqua behind the photo. I've actually used a little bit of a grey stripe, which also came from the Amy Tan Rise and Shine collection, to matte the photo, and so it's like a tone on tone grey diagonal stripe with a sort of watercolour pattern, but you don't get to see much of it at all behind the photo. It's just adding that little frame, and then I've used the same thickers, or not thicker brand, but the same letters. So I really like this cloud, and it says Dream Big, which is appropriate because my son was asleep in this photo, so I go ahead and lift up some of the letters and add the cloud behind it, and then just trim off that little edge bit there. So I also added a layer of vellum at the back of that photo as well. So very similar kind of concepts, but you'll see that the two pages look very different at the end. So just playing around with that little bit that I cut off to see if I could add some more dimension as a cloud, but decide that I'm just going to get rid of that. So now I'm going back to that sticker sheet. Now that sticker sheet is, I can't remember, Everyday Eclectic is that collection that cloud sticker came from, and here's another one of those Polaroid cut aparts that I'm going to add to this layout as well, and it says words to congratulate. So my son was 1 day old in this photo, so I thought that that was quite appropriate for the layout, and it says congrats, you did it, bravo, you are amazing, hooray, best wishes, good going. So I thought that that suited really well. And I love the quotes on that cut apart sheet. All of them are really lovely, which is why I bought it in the first place. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that to the left hand side of the photo, and this will actually be the layout that sits on the left. So I've actually made these in reverse to how I would normally scrapbook. If I was making a 2-page spread, I would normally do the left hand side first, but you know, there's no hard and fast rules, and I was actually feeling more inspired to scrapbook the first page first. I think it was because I was really struggling with the background design of this page, and just didn't know how it might work with the chevron. So I was playing around with mixed media a couple of weeks back, and I actually did 2 pages similar to this and put them both aside and started working on another project because I didn't feel like it was working for me. And then when I got a brayer and decided to start using the brayering on a background, and was inspired to start scrapping these photos, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back and use that background page. So I picked the one of the 2 that I really liked the most, and decided to go with that. So once I had that right hand side page figured out, then I could go back and try and use some of the techniques to kind of work on this particular background. So I've just added a couple of little embellishments there from the sticker sheet that I used before, which is that 3 bugs in the rug one, and so the embellishment cluster at the bottom left has a pink circle and a sticker that says love this photo, and then I've just taken this quote from that 3 bugs in a rug sticker sheet that says, I think it's something like the smallest things. Sometimes the smallest things take up the most room in your heart, and it's a quote from Winnie the Pooh, and I've seen it in a fair few scrapbooking supplies, but I thought it was very appropriate for this particular layout. So I feel like there needs to be a little bit of yellow on that side, so I'm just grabbing another pink circle and adding it to run off the page, and then I'll trim that up as well. And yeah, just going back to that sticker sheet, I'm going to do the same kind of style of embellishment on the top left hand side of this particular layout. So one of the things that, going back to struggling with this background, one of the things that I really did struggle with was I found that the chevron, whilst I like the idea of having texture paste on the page and having that dark grey, I found it a little bit harsh, I guess, as a background. And so one of the things that I think worked really well was actually being able to add that embellishment cluster over the top of that chevron at the top left there, just to soften it a little bit, so it did kind of then start to blend into the background. So you can see all of my layers of paper have gone over the top of that chevron, so there's no clear chevron that hasn't got papers over the top of it, so it does actually become part of the background. And I think that's when it started to work for me, when I realised that I could actually cover some of it up and it wouldn't look so harsh on the particular layout. So I'm playing around with this sticker here, and this sticker also happens to have a pink circle design on it, and it says "You are my sunshine," and so I think that's appropriate because I've sung that song to my children, all of my children, over the years, and then I just play around with this chipboard piece as well. So this chipboard piece comes from the craft store chipboard stickers that I used one for the other layout, and it says grateful for you. So I'm just looking at where I can add that, and I end up messing around with the dimensional adhesive and tear a few things, and so I add some new adhesive, and it would have been good if I'd thought to add this to start with, but often that's my process, is that I start adding some layering and then go, actually, you know what, that isn't enough, or that's too much, and I pull it apart and redo it a little bit. So I also decided to use some Tombow Mono Multi Glue to adhere that piece of paper. So this is the end result. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. And if you'd like to see more, please do subscribe to my channel. I'll catch you in the next video.